Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Titus Andronicus, and we only have today and tomorrow to go, and then we're done with this one, and we move on to Troilus and Cressida. But before we get to that one, we do have to finish this up, and I owe you a bit of an apology because we need to rewind just a tiny little bit. And this is because of the variations in the plays from like the first folio publication to various publications that came after, and even quartos to the folio, all that sort of thing. This particular monologue we're going to hear from Lucius in Act 5, Scene 3 today. This particular monologue in the folio is 12 lines long, but is significantly shorter in other versions. It's only about 6 lines long. So somebody edited it somewhere along the way. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this project 4 years ago, we're doing folio monologues, but I will admit that I look at other versions as I'm prepping for each of these videos so that I can make it look like I know what I'm talking about. So I get reference materials from other versions of the play, and so when I was prepping yesterday's video, I didn't go back to the folio to figure out which the next monologue was going to be, so I skipped over this one. So I apologize for that. We're going to rewind just a smidge. But where we are, lots of people are dead at this point. Titus invited the emperor and empress over for dinner, or they set up a parlay at his house, which was supposed to be over dinner. And on the menu were Chiron and Demetrius in the form of pies, which were fed to Tamara. And Titus then killed his daughter Lavinia, then killed Tamara, then Saturnius killed Titus, then Lucius killed Saturnius. And then there was a great big hubbub. And for the past couple days, we've been hearing from Marcus and Lucius and a Goth and or Emilius to say, you know, Titus was actually in the right. He didn't do anything wrong. This all makes sense if you know the full story of all of the wrongs that have been done to Titus in the very near past. And the people of Rome basically agreed with that sentiment, and they decided that Lucius should be the next emperor. So he's going to be emperor, and he's like, all right, the last thing that we have to deal with is we need to get Aaron in here so that he can receive his punishment as well, because from Marcus's perspective, Lucius blamed everything on Chiron and Demetrius, but then Marcus took it one step farther and said, no, actually it was Aaron that orchestrated all of it, so he needs a punishment worse than death for everything that he did. So some people go off to get Aaron, and while they are getting him, the remaining members of the Andronicus family, being Lucius, his son young Lucius, and Marcus, mourn the loss of Titus. And as part of that mourning process, Lucius says to his son, come hither, boy, come, and learn of us to melt in showers. Thy grandsire loved thee well. Many a time he danced thee on his knee, sung thee asleep, his loving breast thy pillow. Many a matter hath he told to thee, meet and agreeing with thine infancy. In that respect then, like a loving child, shed yet some small drops from thy tender spring, because kind nature doth require it so. Friends should associate friends in grief and woe. Bid him farewell, commit him to the grave, do him that kindness, and take leave of him. So he's just encouraging his son to mourn here, which personally I think is kind of lovely, especially in today's culture. Men aren't encouraged to share their feelings nearly as much as they should be. So to have a father telling his son, please cry for the loss of your grandfather because he loved you dearly, and this is what we do when people die. We cry, we grieve, we bury them, and we move on. It's just kind of a lovely sentiment, I think. And young Lucius does. He goes to the body of Titus and he sheds a few tears and he says goodbye to his grandfather. And then they bring Aaron in, which is where we ended yesterday, but that's why we had to back up just a little bit to fit this in before we bring Aaron back in to find out what's going to happen to him as punishment for his crimes. So we will get to hear that tomorrow as the last monologue from this play, and we'll do a little wrap up, and then we'll move on to the next one. So I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.